For those who will be putting their name forward, here are a reminder of those rules. Contestants must declare by January 23rd if they intend to run. The entrance fee is $350,000. That's nearly 5 times more than the previous leadership race. And if you want to vote, you must be a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or you must also be a registered Liberal, I should say. And the cutoff date to become one is January 27th. And of course, that leader will be picked on March the 9th. So, are those rules too restrictive to have a truly open race, or are they exactly what's needed, considering this short time frame? Let's bring in the front bench. Jeremy Guillot is a former communications director to Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly. He's now the Senior Director of Public Relations at TACT. Mélanie Paradis is the former communications director to Erin O'Toole. She's now the president of Texture Communications. And former Ontario NDP MPP Gurdatin Singh, he's now the vice president at Crestview Strategy. He's also the brother of federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. Welcome to the new year, all. So, Jeremy, I'm going to start with you. Do you think that the buy-in is too high here? Because when you think about it, it's $350,000, and you have to raise it in such a short amount of time.
Well, that's also an indicator, right? The party want people that are serious. They're basically saying to people that might have considered a regular race that if you don't have the electoral machine behind you, if you don't have a support that's strong enough, you cannot be a candidate. And I think that's on purpose, because in such a short amount of time, what you want a real race, but you also want to do, in normal race, when you have 4 to 5 months, there's going to be a lot of candidates at the starting line, and then eventually they're going to fall behind some other candidates. You want to see that happening right now, so you can focus on the real potential candidates to become the next leader of the Liberal Party, and therefore the next Prime Minister as well.
Yeah, and Mélanie, if I'm not mistaken, when Pierre Poilievre was elected leader, that threshold buy-in was $300,000. But I also wanted to ask you about the concerns raised around foreign interference. From what we've heard, or from what you have heard, how comfortable are you with the way the Liberal Party has done all of this by limiting it to Canadian citizens, permanent residents, or anyone has status under the Indian Act?
Look, that was a huge concern for me. I think that they were smart to alleviate that and to ensure that you have to be at least a permanent resident in order to vote in this election. I think that's the right thing to do, especially since they are electing the next prime minister, even if that person's only prime minister for a few weeks. This was the right call. Look, the rules of this leadership are such that the rules always determine who the winner is going to be. In this case, they've basically rolled out the red carpet for Mark Carney. If Mark Carney doesn't win this leadership race, he never will. This is the rules are structured so that it's going to be a front runner who takes this leadership race. So I think that, look, we've got previous examples from the Conservative Party have had 3 leaderships in the past couple of years. The one that we had in 2016, 2017, we had 16 candidates at one point of time because the buy-in was way too low and it was over a year long in terms of the length of the race. That was a nightmare. And so I think that the Liberals are smart to keep this really short, have a very high buy-in so that you keep people who have, frankly, no business running from doing so. It's weighted by riding. So you need to have strong reach and organization all across the country. This is a really big undertaking. You need to be able to build a team fast in order to be successful in this. And frankly, if you're going to be running in the next general election against Pierre Poilievre, your only hope, not that I think the Liberals have much hope in winning that election, but your only hope is to have an incredibly organized team that's ready to go. So you have to prove in the leadership that you're it.
Gurdatin, as we show the people who have either declared or are possibly thinking about it, do you think, as Mélanie said, that this is weighted towards specific people and more of a front-runner campaign out of the gate?
I think definitely that's probably the thought process given the short time frame. But beyond it all, I really think that irrespective of who they choose, it's really someone who will likely be prime minister for a couple of weeks or days, and then afterwards will be leader of an opposition. I think what we've clearly seen is a really low drop of support for Liberals, irrespective of who the leader is. It just demonstrates that after 10 years, people want change, but particularly after 10 years of what is a lot of people have experienced is an increase in unaffordability and in massive cutbacks to a lot of the healthcare that we require, and just overall people not feeling the same kind of security they felt beforehand. We're seeing that the direction in which this election is going is, I really think that the Liberals are fighting to kind of hold on to the furniture right now, and the real conversation, the real political fight's going to happen between the NDP and the Conservatives, given the fact that the Progressives look to be coalescing around the NDP right now.
Jeremy, I wanted to ask you, because of your unique position, you've known Mélanie Joly for some time. So what do you think is behind that decision to step aside in this race this time around?
The main issue at the moment right now, I think she was serious when she said that she wants to put Canada first, and she needs to put all her attention on the relationship with the Canada-US file. For sure, this is something Mélanie Joly wanted to do, as Dominique LeBlanc, but they chose to turn all their attention to the pressing matter, the Donald Trump threats towards our economy and towards our national sovereignty. Mélanie Joly now is going to have a unique position because she's going to be self-stated. The fact that she's not running is not necessarily that she's not able to do it or that she don't have the means to do it. She has an army of volunteers, and she has a lot of capacity to finance the party. So her support is going to be very important in helping decide who's going to be the next prime minister. And I know within the party, Chrystia Freeland went for Justin Trudeau's juggler, but she also took the party's juggler and putting them in the turmoil they are in right now. So I'm curious to see if Mark Carney is going to be able to rally what I call the Trudeau loyalist and gathering as well the machine Justin Trudeau had with him, including Mélanie Joly's machine of volunteers and people that are able to do some fundraising.
Yeah, Mélanie, pick up on that, especially when you consider the news that we're hearing, not only that Christy Clark is somebody who's organizing heavily and will formally decide early this week, according to sources that are speaking to us, but also that Mark Carney is seemingly having the support of what we are hearing as dozens of MPs, according to a source close to him. How do you think those two play in all of this? And I know you spoke about Carney, but especially with the backdrop of Joly dropping out.
So I think one of the challenges that I'm going to be watching for with the Liberals is even in the Conservative leadership races, we always saw Conservatives pitted against Conservatives, and that's what you're going to see with the Liberals. You're going to see these teams fighting against each other. They're going to be releasing opposition research against each other, airing each other's dirty laundry to try to stop their momentum and position their candidate better. There's always one of the benefits of this being a short race is there's not as much time to do long-term damage to the party and to the people who are running. But that's always one of the big risks. There's also a big risk of there being vicious divides between these campaign teams who ultimately need to come together at the end in order to work together on the general election behind whoever ends up being the candidate. I guess in this case, they'll actually be the prime minister. And I just want to note that one more thing to note on leadership races is Murphy's Law plays a huge factor into this. In my experience, in multiple national leadership races and provincial, whatever can go wrong will go wrong on these leadership races. So we've had cases where like tens of thousands of ballots were cut by an envelope slicing machine, and that delayed the vote count for many hours. Well, we've had situations where the executive director of the party had to hand deliver ballots to people because Canada Post didn't deliver them on time. In this case, they're probably going to do a virtual. We don't know this yet, but I would imagine it's going to be a virtual vote. But even just getting people their PIN codes in order to register, they're going to probably have to take a picture of their photo ID in order to make sure that this is a real person that's voting. That whole process is so cumbersome and challenging and can really cause delays. I think the March 9th deadline is super ambitious and aggressive, and I'm just sadly looking forward to watching another party have challenges instead of just ours with the leadership.
You just want to watch the world burn. I get it, Mel. It's fine. It's fine. Gerdeton,
well,
I wanted you to pick up. Yeah, I wanted you to pick up on that splintering within the party. How much of a danger is that for the Liberals, considering not only does this person have to govern, but then they'll have to really sort of rally everybody behind them in a potential election?
I think we need to really understand and articulate how damaging that could be for the Liberals right now, because generally a leadership race is supposed to be a time where this is, bringing new energy for the party. You have good discussion, and you have afterwards a period of time to, build those bridges with the other side, make the peace, and then get a group coalesce together, create that unity, and then run a general election. You're not having that opportunity right now. So off the heels of the leadership race, you're going to then have to go into a general election. And it's not like in 2018 in Ontario when you had this very quick or shortened leadership race with the Conservatives. It's not like that because they at least had the polls at their back, that wind blowing into their sails that resulted in them forming government. You have the exact opposite in this circumstance where you have Liberals trailing lower and lower at 16 points. The NDP are 5 points above the Liberals right now. So in already a position where they are weakened, now they're going to have this divisive leadership race, as all leadership races are, that's going to further weaken them. They're going to quickly have to, try to patch things up and run a general. So I think this is just really demonstrating how weak the Liberals are. And I think this process has a huge possibility to weaken them further, barring, an uncontested leadership race, which we know is not going to happen.
Yeah, and I really like how you slid in those poll numbers. Take one more dig at the Liberals just before we had to go to break. And that's what we got to do, because the party will have to have some sort of a